In just a few days, Mortal Kombat 11 is finally going to arrive, and it looks like with time travel being thrown into the story, it's going to celebrate the history of these characters in a way that we haven't seen since the last time that they decided to use time travel to celebrate the history of these characters. But we didn't have a channel back then, so screw it. Today we're going to count down the top 10 Mortal Kombat characters. Now for this list, we're looking at several factors, including their moves, their stories, their designs, and just overall what these characters meant to the franchise. But in the end, this is just our opinion, so let us know yours in the comments down below. Also, remember we're making this list before Mortal Kombat 11 is released, so any huge developments that happen with the characters in that game are going to have no impact on our rankings. Now, kicking it off at number 10, Ermac. This character is easily one of the two most improved players in the game's history. When Ermac first appeared, he was just another palette swap of the other ninjas in the game, and he literally had no point in existing other than simply to exist. But as the games went along, they not only completely redesigned him to give him his own paranormal ghostly style, but they also went all in on his lore. He was now not just some red ninja, he was the accumulation of souls that Shao Kahn had collected turned into a living warrior. Which is an idea that really embraces some of the unique mystical elements of the Mortal Kombat world, but they even gave him some huge moments that made him important to the overall story, making it so that he was the character who was actually responsible for destroying Jax's arms and revealing that one of the souls that was inside him was Kitana's father. Ermac gets on this list because he went from, hey, we have a red ninja now, to actually being a major villain in the story of Mortal Kombat. Number 9, Quan Chi. I'll be honest with you, I'm shocked Quan Chi made it onto this list, and it's my list. When I was a kid, I hated Quan Chi. When he was first introduced, he didn't stack up to the previous bad guys, and I thought his design was honestly pretty lame. It felt like people trying to take advantage of the goth movement of the 90s without understanding the goth movement of the 90s. However, as time went along, we saw that he actually had his fingers in all kinds of pies in this world. He brought about the coming of Shinnok, which Mortal Kombat 10 re-envisioned to actually make him feel like a real threat, paired up with Shang Tsung to kill Liu Kang, the protagonist of this series, and it was revealed that he was the one who tricked Scorpion into hating SubZero, meaning he was responsible for one of the biggest rivalries in video game history. Also, speaking in terms of gameplay, his puppetry techniques is just so sinister in the best ways, and he has one of the best fatalities in the series.
Quan Chi wins flawless victory.
Yes, I know it's dumb, but it makes me laugh, so it gets him on this list. Okay, it stopped being funny. Let's go ahead and take him off the list. Wait, went back around to being funny again. Let's put him back on the list. At number 8, Kitana. Kitana represents a new side to Mortal Kombat. When this series began, we knew that there was some other dimension out there full of monsters and demons that was trying to merge with our own, but when Kitana popped up, she revealed, hey, it's not all fire and damnation out here. She comes from another plane that was closer to heaven than hell, giving a whole new depth to the lore of this series. Also, her backstory is intense. Her father was murdered and her mother was mind controlled so that she would marry Shao Kahn, who would then raise Kitana as his own daughter. Not even Batman has a tragic childhood that bad. Kitana might not be the main protagonist of this series, but when you consider her horrifying upbringing and how much stake she has in this game, it made me cheer her on as she led the charge against the forces of Outworld to try and bring peace to Edenia, more than I did for pretty much anything that Liu Kang ever did. Speaking of Kitana and the messed up stuff from her past, number 7, Mileena. Mileena was another character who was created as a palette swap, but when she was introduced, she had a lot going for her right off the bat, with a backstory that actually tied into the fact that she was just a clone of Kitana. Because it turns out she was actually a clone of Kitana. But she wasn't just evil Kitana, she had a chunk of Tarkatan DNA thrown in there because, hey, why the hell not? This is Mortal Kombat. We don't need an excuse to be f***ed up. This caused her to become not only a great foil for Kitana, constantly fighting to rule Edenia in her place and struggling to be accepted as the true daughter of Shao Kahn, but it also made her 31 flavors of crazy. She just overflows with twisted maliciousness, making her one of the best villains in this franchise for personality alone. She is a cackling, savage monster mixed with Kitana's cunning mind, making her a real threat. And this madness is shown off in her fatalities. When you see her completely inhale her opponent or swallow a box of nails and fire them out like a machine gun, it makes you realize, oh, she's just nuts in a way unlike any other character. Number 6, Shao Kahn. I swear I did not put these three here together on purpose, it just kind of worked out that way. Shao Kahn isn't just one of the best villains in this franchise, he's one of the best villains in video game history. I could go on and on about how he was the villain for several games and killed major characters and ruined other characters' lives and conquered numerous realms over hundreds and hundreds of years, but let's be real. The number one reason why Shao Kahn is such a great villain is because he is just an unrelenting a-hole to fight against. It doesn't matter what game he's in, he is going to be worthy of being the final boss. He is notorious for not only being so hard he's practically broken, he actually stops to just straight up say, "You suck," and laugh in your face. He literally adds insults to injury. So for his overwhelming punishing nature in everything from his backstory to his presentation, he has to be on the list. Number 5, Noob Saibot. Okay, this might seem like an odd pick to put this high, but trust me, I have a very good reason for it. He gets some points because his mysterious nature had gamers talking and speculating like mad when he first appeared back in the 90s. Why was there another palette swap ninja who was just a silhouette? Was he that mysterious? Was he going to be revealed to be something else completely different later? We had no idea what this meant, but we really wanted to know. Then, when you could finally play as him, you saw that he summoned out a shadow duplicate. Again, no idea what it meant, but it was creepy and paranormal in that unique Mortal Kombat way, so we all wanted answers. And those answers are what get him this high. Yes, eventually we got his backstory and we learned that he was Bi-Han, the original SubZero. For anyone who doesn't know, SubZero from the first Mortal Kombat game was killed in the story by Scorpion. The SubZero who appeared in the games after that was his brother. Bi-Han was resurrected as Noob Saibot, a being that possessed his cold-blood assassin training while stripping him of all of his compassion and empathy, leaving him with only his hatred and cruelty. P.S. The person that resurrected him as a force of pure evil? Quan Chi. Is there anything screwed up in this story that he didn't cause? But that's why he gets this high in the list. You see, Mortal Kombat early on established something about itself that made it different from all other fighting games on the market, and no, it wasn't the fatalities. It's that even early on, you could tell this whole series was a soap opera. There was one long story that was playing out in the background, continuing from one installment into the next, and Noob Saibot was the first character that really made audiences realize what that could truly mean. Number 4, Raiden. Raiden encompasses a lot about what makes this franchise work. He was here from the beginning as an elder god, so right from the start he was providing this game with a deep lore and some structure to all these different multi-dimensional planes. And for decades he served as the guide for the humans from one game to the next, so while all these big thuggish villains from Outworld came in here to try and wreck our house, Raiden was always that character that was in our corner. He was that character that let us know, don't worry, someone is looking out for you. You're going to be okay because you've got an actual god in your corner. But what gets him this high is that in Mortal Kombat 9, after the events of the previous games reached a climax and basically ended up destroying the world, Raiden sent a message back in time to his younger self and ended up both saving and completely wrecking the timeline. Since that game, Raiden has gone from wise old advisor to central pillar of this story. And considering how much better the story and the games have been since 9 rebooted it all, in many ways, Raiden is the one to thank for this series being revived for a new generation. Number 3, Johnny Cage. Remember when I said Ermac was one of the 2 most improved characters over the course of this series? Say hello to number 1. In a world full of monsters and gods and kung fu legends, Johnny Cage was a cheesy 90s action movie star. Mostly here just because he had personality and he was good for a laugh. Although sometimes it was unclear whether or not the humor was intentional or if the people making this game actually thought he was cool, and what was cool in the 90s has not aged well. Cage was an arrogant, self-centered, egotistical pretty boy, but in Mortal Kombat 9, when Raiden fixed the timeline by destroying everything and getting all the heroes from the previous games killed, Johnny Cage was suddenly promoted to being the strongest human being left on the planet. I know, I'm scared too. However, in Mortal Kombat 10, when we jumped ahead by about 20 years, we saw that being put in the role of one of Earth's chosen defenders actually agreed with him. Sure, he was still kind of smarmy, but now it was actually charming. He actually understood his responsibility, and he had been working his butt off to defend this planet, even raising the next generation of warriors with his daughter Cassie. And yes, I know that he was fighting alongside Sonya Blade, but Sonya was always Sonya. She didn't really have the huge character arc that Johnny did. I mean, let's be real, if you use some of that Raiden time travel magic to go back to when Mortal Kombat 2 or 3 or hell, literally any Mortal Kombat before 2010, and told your younger self, oh yeah, Johnny is going to be one of the biggest heroes in this game, none of us would have believed that. And yet, here we are. A guy who a decade ago wouldn't even have cracked the top 10, now firmly planting his foot at the number 3 spot. Number 2, SubZero, or more accurately, Kuai Liang, the second SubZero. Now, the second SubZero makes this spot because A, SubZero is one of the 2 biggest iconic figures in this entire franchise, and when you consider that Liang isn't even the first SubZero, you realize how much he took this tile and made it his own. And again, I'll repeat myself, Mortal Kombat is a soap opera. It's the continued development of characters growing and changing over years and years of stories, and SubZero is a great representation of that. Going from being in the shadow of his older brother and working as part of the Lin Kuei, he eventually rebelled against their tradition of hate and destruction in order to pursue a more moral and heroic journey, stepping out and becoming his own man, and then growing up to eventually return to the Lin Kuei, but now as a leader, as someone who would take this group of assassins and turn them towards a more just cause. This is a huge journey for his character, probably one of the biggest character growths in any fighting game, and unlike Johnny Cage, he didn't have this journey placed upon him by an external source. It was all him searching to establish himself as his own man and to change his clan's legacy. However, there is one character in this series who takes all that SubZero embodies and takes it one step further. At number 1, the Xenomorph. I'm just kidding, it very clearly is not the Xenomorph. Although how crazy is it that if you actually had to list all the Mortal Kombat characters from best to worst, the Xenomorph would be on there? And speaking in all honesty, he would actually be higher than a lot of the real Mortal Kombat characters. No, the actual number 1 character, you've all figured it out by now, Scorpion. It was neck and neck between SubZero and Scorpion, but in the end, Scorpion takes all those positives I gave SubZero and bumps them up just a tiny bit more. Yes, SubZero and Scorpion have been the 2 most iconic figures in this whole series, but Scorpion's "Get over here" line became one of the most recognizable lines in video game history, and his original fatality where he ripped his mask off to reveal a fire-breathing skull underneath let audiences know immediately what type of game this was going to be. Plus, Mortal Kombat was always known for having darker tones than any other fighting game on the market at the time, and while the roster was comprised of heroes and villains, Scorpion firmly established himself as walking between the two, an anti-hero in every sense, helping his entire character represent the tone of this franchise. And when you look at his story, Scorpion has one of the biggest journeys and roughest beginnings of any fighting game character. Starting off as a family man in the Shirai Ryu, Scorpion and his whole clan were murdered, causing him to turn to the dark side in the Netherrealm, where he sold his alliance to Quan Chi, becoming a dark specter hell-bent on revenge. From there, he embarked on a journey to confront his own demons, learning the truth of what Quan Chi did, breaking the sorcerer's hold on him, and eventually fully redeeming himself by pairing up with the newly reformed Lin Kuei and taking refugees from the war with Outrealm into his new Shirai Ryu clan, which now worked to protect the Earth. He even formed an almost father-son relationship with the new character Takeda, showing how he truly came back around and went from being a demon possessed by rage and a need for revenge, and was finally able to climb his way back to being the man that he used to be. Which to me is kind of a big metaphor for the entire Mortal Kombat franchise. This series started off in the 90s as a bunch of young guys who loved kung fu movies and extreme violence, and that was about it. But over time, they came to appreciate character development, growth, and the art of storytelling, perhaps more so than any other fighting game in history, causing Mortal Kombat in many ways to go from this to this. So to me, Scorpion has to be the number 1 character in Mortal Kombat. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Who are your favorite characters in Mortal Kombat? And make sure that you come back later for our review of Mortal Kombat 11. You can also follow us around the web on Twitter at Thorgi's Arcade, or come join us as we play through these games on Twitch at twitch.tv/ProfessorThorgi. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time.